human curiosity is really this key element to pretty much everything in life. If you want to be an AI, you better be curious because this stuff is moving so fast. And if you're not curious, you're going to just be left behind.
Welcome to SaaS That App, building B2B web applications, the podcast where we share real-world stories, practical advice, and tech insights for those building or thinking about starting a tech-enabled business. I'm your co-host, Aaron Marchbanks.
And I'm Justin Edwards. Each week we bring you the stories, strategies, and insights you need to build your SaaS or tech-enabled business smarter, not harder. Let's dive right in.
Hello again, and welcome to SaaS That App. Across the screen from me, as always, is Justin Edwards. Today, my language learning partner in crime. Welcome, my friend.
Hallo, wie geht's?
There it is. And our guest today is Dan Wegner, the co-founder of AI Sales Prospector and CEO of Traffic Resources International, where he's making AI useful for sales teams who are tired of, among other things, wasting time on bad leads and busy work and all that goes along with sales. With a background in software architecture, web development, and building tools for giants like Apple and IBM, Dan has seen the difference between some shiny tech for show and systems that actually drive real results. And that's what we want to get into today. So he is here to help us separate some of the signal from noise in the land of AI, especially when it comes to building smarter sales processes in your web app. So Dan, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Aaron. Good to meet you guys.
So Dan, I'm just going to kind of jump right in with the general stuff. You've obviously been involved with building, developing, supporting, investing in custom software for years, and you are now neck deep in AI-powered sales tools. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to avoid, right?
Yeah. So what's been the biggest surprise for you in working with AI in general? Something that really changed how you thought about product or process?
So what I like most about AI is it helps people do what they don't do very well much better. So, you're an expert in one thing or three things. AI lets you be kind of an expert in, well, at least good enough in a lot of areas that maybe aren't your strong suit, So that's been the sweet spot of AI for me, and trying to allow other people to take advantage of that. That's what my product's about.
So in this particular case, is AI like a large language model primarily, or are you digging into other things as well?
Yeah. So, we're AI, because AI helps build AI. I'm always spending time, how can I extend the tool even farther to do more? We're talking about text to speech and speech to text and all that kind of stuff. We're starting to play with that a little bit and see how we can integrate it. But mostly it's large language models used to do messaging, mostly promotion, those sorts of things. So
yeah, so we've kind of heard before that, and we've talked about it on other pods that automation seems to work best when it's boring. And so what is some example just early in working with small overlooked pieces of, in this case, the sales process or processes in general that should be automating way more than what they are.
Yeah. So, in the old days, you maybe smile and dial and pick up the phone and call, that early, the top of funnel stuff, right? So getting people to, set up a meeting and stuff like that. So what we call business development or sales development. That top of funnel thing is, tedious. And so if you can automate it somehow, then you get to kind of get that off your plate, and that's really what our tool does. It sits on top of LinkedIn, and what it does is it sends out messages. It helps create invitations so that you can connect with people, and it takes care of that first level of communication where it says, hey, you know what, I work in the industry. I know what you do. I solve problems just like you need solved and things like this. And you can communicate that. And we help not only with automation and AI, but we kind of help people think about what's that messaging supposed to look like? What's really going to get someone to say, hey, I'm interested. Maybe let's set up a meeting.
And this is the AI Sales Prospector, is that right?
Yeah, we call it, actually, it's called Workflow Assassin.
Workflow Assassin, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, and the AI Sales Prospector, that's the URL that we use.
Got it.
We want to name with a little bit of punch. So we went
No,
with
I love
something
that.
that, anyhow, a little shocking, but hey.
No, it's a provocative name. How do you select targets for your assassination?
Right.
It is to say, are you using the kind of the LLMs and the AI as a tool to identify candidates who should be receiving messages as well as the content, or how does that work for the
We
assassin?
rely on, people have already got their audiences. We rely on LinkedIn's tools for filtering audiences. And then once you filter audience, then our tool goes in, it looks at the target person's profile, it grabs their information. There's really great stuff in LinkedIn about the person. It's what they've done. They have an about section. And if that's filled out, you've basically said to me, what's really important to you about what you do at work? And I can come back to you with some AI in there and say, hey, I really noticed that you excel in this thing. And it's like, wow, he noticed what I like about work. And so it can be a really compelling conversation that you're initiating with AI. And so we use large language models. We use open AIs, the people who built ChatGPT. We use their API and we hook it in with some back end, whatever secret sauce or whatever we want to call it, where we help craft messages that we think are going to be compelling, but we also leave a lot in the hands of the prospector, the person doing the work, wants to make the connection on how they want to communicate. Do they want to be professional, casual, straight laced, goofy, whatever they want to do, they have the ability to do that within the tool. So it's pretty cool.
So like basically letting them kind of set up their personas. I mean, you talked about LinkedIn, and obviously LinkedIn is kind of like the place where everybody gets flooded with like generic outreach in general. So would you say that is something that's unique to you all, and that the approach of that is this ability to kind of personalize this and also attach to what your target is interested in? Or
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that we want to do. People are used to templated emails, and it's gotten over into LinkedIn. It's templated. Our tool actually, you can go that route if you're like, I got this message nailed down and I want it to be the exact same every way, but just insert their name and their field or whatever. The tool can do that, but most of the time, it's like, hey, Jim, I noticed you did this sort of thing, and it's really cool that you like this, and just a little warm up, and it's much more human than the templated thing, and we think that brings a lot of value to the marketplace. Over time, hopefully everyone's going to realize that that's a good methodology, but for now, we really feel like we're ahead of the crowd. So
yeah, was there something in particular that kind of birthed the idea of that approach? I mean, necessity is always the mother of invention. So I'm just kind of curious what happened to you or in your past, or the issue that you saw that needed to be solved better with AI.
my co-founder, Rob, he is a sales guy from way back. He does this sort of sales development. He's headed up teams and stuff like that. And we've been buddies for about 8 years, and we love talking about business and what's cool and what's working. And he's like, I've got this methodology and I've been using it for a long time on LinkedIn. It's really powerful, but if you could just automate it a little bit, whatever, just take some of this off my plate. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. And this was when like ChatGPT 2.0 or whatever came out, and it's like, this thing might have legs, I mean, it'd be really useful. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to build that. We're going to build this. I'm going to build it. And I think it's going to meet your needs. Actually, we built something completely different the first time around. And we realized that what we need to do is emulate exactly what he was doing. So we actually have a Chrome extension that sits on top of LinkedIn and then works with LinkedIn just like a human being would do it if they were sitting there. So
That's super cool. I like the idea of bringing tone and your personality into it. I do a lot of using LLMs to write things for me, and I always get this very formal business speak out of them. And it's like, guys, it's not my style. So you need to this needs to sound like it actually came from me. So I love the idea that your tool can do that and can accommodate that. So you're sending something that feels authentic to people, which I think will resonate with people. People know when they're receiving a form letter.
Exactly. So yeah, then I like going as casual as I can. I don't know why. I think that's kind of my nature, kind of easygoing. I'm not very formal. I don't try to stack up all my credentials, and I'm hoping that people will want to connect with me because they trust me. And I think I want my LLM to talk to people the way I would do it, and I think that's very powerful.
No, definitely. You said something actually that I want to get into a little bit. You said you had built something the first time around that was different than what you had intended or expected or needed to move on from. What did you build the first time?
Yeah, so we built something that tried to utilize the LinkedIn APIs, which are super limited. They kind of have that locked down. So we built that. We were just basically just creating posts. Now our tool, just FYI, does posts, and one of the most powerful things we can do is we can actually push out the posts that you created to a select target audience of your connections. So say you have CEOs and you decide to create a message that goes specifically to those, or you create a post that goes specifically to those CEOs. Now you can take that and say, hey, and the tool will say, hey, John, love what you're doing at ABC Company. Here's a post I thought you might find interesting. I'll check up with you soon, or catch up with you soon, or whatever. And it just sends it out, including that post. And now you're able to take content that you created and directly send it to your target audience without having to wait for them to come to you and to see your post and to wait on the algorithm to boost your post and get it in front of your audience. So this way you kind of take control of that, which again is a really neat feature that we do. And it's really effective. If you can you create really targeted posts, something specific about their industry and their role, and then take that and push out a message with that post embedded in it. It's great.
So who like what kind of organizations, or like who are your like most ideal customers, and can you unpack your business model like a little bit for us?
Yeah. So we started out pretty high end. We thought, you know what, we're going to get in, medium to large sales organizations, and we're going to, offer them a model that basically says one person using our tool can replace 3 to 4 SDRs. And look at that savings, and you're gonna do great. And we realized that there's so much hesitation and resistance in the marketplace, merely because everyone's kind of like, AI is a big deal and it's so big, we need to be careful, and we don't want to necessarily take a step, and I'll play around with Chat GPT and things like that. And people are really, they, and maybe rightfully so, they want to really think this through. My perspective, and you can take it with a grain of salt since I'm in the industry, is that people need to start getting their feet wet. And if you make the wrong decision, quote unquote wrong, if it's a good decision, it's going to propel you forward. And then you're going to know, well, this worked, but we need this and this and this. The nice thing is, if you're my customer and you say, if I could just do this, well, I can use all the tools at my resource, and I can add that to the tool. And now you've got this tool that does all the things and what you want to do. But like I was saying, we had a very expensive business model up front, and we did actually pick up a large customer, and it was pretty good, but they had problems introducing and integrating into their workforce. Their salespeople were hesitant, and I don't think they wanted to like crack down on them and force them into using the tool. And eventually it was like, yeah. And then what we realized is like, let's just make it easy for people to get in. We had a very long sales cycle. Now we see people signing up without even talking to us. They see the demo, they see our videos or whatever, and they're like, oh, And so now we're at, if you do a year up front, it's $100. So, anyone, $100 a month, and affordable in that that kind of sweet spot that says, hey, if I can get some real value out of this as a business, if I can bring sales in the door or meetings in the door, it's totally worth it. And like we said, it's still the same product. It still replaces 3 to 4 SDRs, sales development reps, and it's can be very powerful for them. And now they can do it free and easy, and we're going to get a larger user base. And hopefully our goal is to keep providing great tools, and maybe there's a tool that in fact, we've added a few tools that are kind of in the background. One of them, maybe you've seen them, is these HeyGen creates a video. There's also another company called Avatar, but they create talking head videos using AI based on a script that can be generated by AI. So basically, you say, create a talking head video about snowfall in Alaska or something, and you'll get this personality, or it could be a twin of you talking. And then, you can kind of tell if you watch closely that maybe that was done by AI, but we've actually added that so people can instantly post content. It's in there. We have a video on how to use it, but people are gonna, it's like, we don't want to overwhelm people with, we've got 50 features. And I think that's a real key to being successful in the type of SaaS and AI stuff that we do. It's just do one thing, and do it really well. Don't, you get these tools and they do 15 things, and, you never know. Maybe there's a great tool in there. I never saw it because it's kind of buried. And then the person that's creating the tool doesn't know it's a great tool because nobody uses it. They can't find it, or they've gotten kind of sucked into some other aspect of the tool. Just make one tool, be great at it. And that's kind of our goal here. So we do posts, we help you create posts. We help you message content, whether that's a post, a simple message. We do something called an alignment message, which is kind of a sales term, is that, hey, I work with people like you. I solve these kind of problems. Maybe that's the kind of problems you're having. Maybe we should talk, those kind of things. And then anything else you want to send, but you can send those messages. And that's really the key thing. We also help build your audience through invitations. So, kind of a small thing, basically 3 things: LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn direct messages, and building your audience, and we think that in about 20 minutes from the time you sign up, and we have already kind of walked you through it, in 10 minutes, you can be sending out content and creating DMs to your target audience. So the goal is to be so simple that anyone can do it. And I think that's what AI offers, and we want to deliver on AI.
Yeah, that actually was going to be my next question. For those that are struggling to adopt or having trouble getting their own teams to get involved in it, do you offer any sort of like a training or a servicing component to kind of handhold them through the process, or give them examples, or is that all pretty much, explained through the process of getting the components?
Yeah, we have training videos like everybody, and they walk through it, but we'll we'll handhold anyone through it. Our goal is to make sure that you use the tool in such a way that it's productive. And the cool thing is Rob's got, all these years, dozens of years of sales expertise, prospecting. He just brings all this know-how to the table. So as we're teaching them about the tech, it's like, you should talk about this. And this is we have a thing called a solve prompt. And once we help you identify that, the solve prompt is, what solution do you provide? What transformation do you provide to your audience, whether it's some tactical thing or psychological? I make you feel comfortable about whatever, it could be anything, but that's the transformation you provide. And if you get that solve prompt right, the tool will do the messaging right. And so we're really, we'll walk you through that. We'll help you think about it. We've actually got a tool that'll go out to your website and look at what your website says about you and try to create a solve prompt based on that as a good starting point. But really, we know that people buy because they're compelled to spend money. People don't generally want to just give away their money. But if you can create a sense that, wow, this really solves my problem. I'm so glad this person exists on LinkedIn, and now I'm going to get this problem solved. And so we help create that with that solve.
Taking this back to, where you're at right now and with the sales teams that you are interacting with, or maybe just in general, obviously there has been this traditional set of how-tos as it relates to sales, and most sales professionals have been through that mental process or whatever. But now with the advent of AI, with the ability of like LinkedIn and other platforms for people to get connected very easily, cutting out some of these little boring or nuancey processes, what kind of skills do you see being better or more necessary for sales teams or even product teams to be developing now in order to stay ahead of this curve, instead of just relying on the old style processes? Your AI is fixing some of this. So what do I need to be telling my sales teams now, to leverage or build their skills with?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we discovered is in the sales world, you have SDRs or BDRs, so sales development rep, business development reps, and their job is to kind of pound the pavement. They used to be on the phones, now they're in social media and stuff. And uh, those people would take that opportunity. They get their first job, but their goal is to move up the ranks. No one wants to be, this pavement pounder their whole life. Maybe some do, but a lot of them are like, this is the next step is to be a rep, or whatever, and work account rep, work accounts, or whatever, or be a closer or whatever. So they want to move up the hierarchy chain, and so they don't stay there very long. Now with tools like ours, they kind of start to become irrelevant. And so really the kind of skills that are important, especially in the sales arena, are your ability to understand what your customer needs, what their pitfalls are, and being able to communicate really clearly. Because I think my guess is, there's things that you can sell without a person, but eventually, if it's the least bit complex, someone wants to talk to somebody. And so having that person that can identify, those soft people skills are what we are relying on. So we would take people who want to get into sales, we would put them in a position where their soft people skills were irrelevant, because really they were just pounding the pavement and sending out as many messages as they could, or using the CRM or whatever. So they don't even use their soft people skills. And then eventually they move out of that, and then they get to use it. So this kind of skips that part. And you're going to find out pretty quickly if how are you in a Zoom call, what we call a strategy call. How are you at understanding and listening and responding to what they need, and having this good dialogue and this good back and forth. That's that's a skill that a lot of people just don't have, and maybe will never get. And that ability to listen, and probably the most important, we're discovering this, and this is, for me, this is like philosophical on an AI level. Human curiosity is really this key element to pretty much everything in life. You want good relationships, you better be curious. If you want to be a good salesperson, you better be curious. If you want to be good at your job, you better be curious. If you want to be, and this is for us, if you want to be an AI, you better be curious, because this stuff is moving so fast. And if you're not curious, you're using some old technology. In 2 or 3 weeks, the technology can change so fast that if you're not curious enough to flip over a rock, or to get into the latest and greatest and watch the news and all these things, if you don't want to do that, you're going to just be left behind. And so curiosity seems to be, that one element that'll move forward, whether we have AI, whether we, whatever we do in whatever area of our life. Curiosity seems to be kind of the key human quality that's going to keep us interesting and engaged, and having a fulfilling careers, whether we're in sales or any other industry. So.
For sure. Well, how does that curiosity then play into what you're doing now? I mean, what's the roadmap looking like? I mean, where are you taking this, or is it where it's going?
Yeah, no, there's so much. So OpenAI, the ChatGPT people, they, about a month ago, they released some new models in the text to speech and speech to text area. And they're putting a lot of, what would you say, a lot of emphasis and a lot of capital into the idea that people aren't going to want to type into their chatbots, and if you have the app on your phone or even on your computer, there's that squiggly little button, and you can click that. You can just have a nice conversation with the AI, and they sound like a person, and and they say all the right things, like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way, or whatever. Sound empathetic. And you have these conversations, but our goal is to get our tool so much so that we can just go to it and say, hey, create a post for me, focus on something I haven't done in the last few days, and maybe about a problem that's happening in my industry. Well, it already knows your industry. It already knows what you've posted. It already knows all these things, and it becomes, really smart at creating these posts without so much of your input. And you set it into your phone, or you set it into your other tool. Then the next thing is, that post is great. Will you send it out to all the CEOs that are in the IT space or something like this? And boom, it just goes out. So that ability to use voice, right now, we say it takes about 9 minutes to create a really high quality post, which is really good considering I think the average is about an hour if you're doing it manually. We create so many, we can send out images at about 12 seconds a message, send out messages, about 12 seconds a message to your target audience. So each person gets a message in about 12 seconds. And, so we save a lot of time, but how much better it would be and how much easier it would be to adopt a tool where I don't barely have to do anything. I'm just kind of directing it, and it's doing the work for me. So that's where we're going. Right now, we're much more of a, we have tabs in our tool. So you do this tab, you do this tab, and you do this tab. But I don't think it'll be very long. Probably within 6 months, I think you're going to be able to do anything through a voice interface. Basically, you'd say what you want to do, and it would respond, hey, it sounds like you want to do a post about XYZ. Is that correct? Yes. Boom, it creates it. So those are the kind of things that we think are very, very close, very doable. Where right now we've got a bunch of tools that we've created to play with the voice interactions, and we're just waiting to implement them in the right way and kind of make some decisions on how much change we want to introduce to the tool over what period of time. So if we think this is going to be 6 months, maybe we can create a simple change now and then kind of have the whole enchilada working in 6 months, or maybe we just wait the 6 months, and those are the kind of decisions we're making.
Nice. I feel like in this world of AI, and the more that I read about it, I'm waiting for the full circle moment. Back in the day, it was great. I want to talk to a person because I want that personal touch. And then it got to be, well, I know what I want to do. I want to bypass the person. So then we got to input numbers, on the phone to jump through the hoops of the system. And it's like, well, that's too much. I want now to just be able to chat with the chatbot and have them do it. And now the chatbot's going to be able to talk back to me without the human interaction. And I feel like at some point in time, we're going to come all the way back around to, I want to talk to somebody, but it won't be somebody. It'll be another AI. I read something, I think it was just a week ago, that people have started paying attention to when the AIs are talking to each other now, and how quickly the language starts to change to make it more efficient for the two entities that are talking to one another. It's just, it's fascinating to me because that circle just keeps coming back around, it seems.
It's amazing. It's a great field to be in. I'm no spring chicken, but I think it keeps me mentally nimble, and it's pretty exciting. So
exactly. Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time. It has been a pleasure. Love always getting to talk about AI and cutting edge stuff, and also how it relates to what it is that you're doing. So really appreciate you being on the pod. How and where can people reach you?
Yeah, so you can find me at danwegner.com. That's WEGNER.com. And my product is AIsalesprospector.com. Great tool if you want to start doing some sales in an automated way. That's how you can find me. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter and all the other places too. So
we got another SaaS that people could use to grow their SaaSes. So that's all exciting.
Yeah, right.
That's right. It gets very meta.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Justin. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Super nice to chat with you, Dan. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit here.
It's great. Thank you.
Justin, always a pleasure. And special thanks as always to our listeners. We will see you next time on SaaS That App. Thanks for cruising along with us on SaaS That App. We hope you grabbed some insights that were inspiring, actionable, or at least entertaining.
If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep those apps sassy.